What's that?
Start already.
Oh.
Yeah. Hello, hi everyone. Good evening. Okay, let us just
Hi,
get
everyone.
everything in order. Let's see. Okay.
I cannot see.
Hello. So for those of you who are already inside, please help us like and share. Start a watch party, right? So that we can benefit as many people as possible.
Happening now.
Yeah.
How you see? I cannot see.
Oh, you're at the event. You got to go to the live page. Okay, here we are. Hi, Victoria. Who else is here? Okay, if you guys can hear us, please put a comment below so we know you all can hear us loud and clear. Okay. Let me see. We can see who's inside. Hi, Kenneth. You're in already. Hi, Chris. Okay, so for those of you who came in early, right, I got special gift for all of you, right? I'm gonna paste a link for the MAS financial stability review, which is something that we will refer to quite a bit in the presentation later on. So yeah, those of you who came in early, you can open up and already start reading before we really touch on the details of the report later on. Okay. We don't know why not many people have read it, right? Oh, sorry, give us a minute. I think the thing is lagging. Yes, Kenneth, like and share got prize. Yeah. Okay. Let's get started, right? Okay. So those of you who are already inside, right? We just wanted to have a quick poll so that we know really the dynamics on the people that is listening, right? So for those of you who own a HDB, right, help us press 1. Those of you who own a private property, help us press 2.
And those of you who are currently not owning any property and maybe looking around to purchase one, then you can input 3.
Hi, Nigel.
So yeah, let's see what how's the audience like today.
So Nigel, Kenneth, doing more research, right? Victoria as well. Hi, Mervin. Long time no see.
Hi, Val.
Oh, hi, Yong Liang. So still looking out for your first property. All right. Okay. Okay. Then second question, right? Second poll. So for those of you who are looking to buy, help us key in A. A for Alvin, right? Those of you who are looking to sell, key in B, right? And those not looking to do anything, right? Press C. because they think the world is going to end, so don't want to do anything. Press C, right? So we also know, yeah. Okay, right? Okay. So okay. So before we get down to the actual sharing, we want to categorically state, okay, because this word very popular nowadays due to the elections, right? People keep saying that we are not ignoring the fact that we are perhaps in the deepest recession in current times. Jobs will be lost and people will undergo financial hardships, and our thoughts goes out to those that are affected significantly lah. So we are not in any way trying to say everything is fine, right? The most important thing is, right, for you to educate yourself and make an informed decision. Okay. Yeah.
So before we move on to the slides and talk about the facts and figures, we just wanted to share with you guys, you know, what we as agents, what we feel on the ground, because we have actually gotten many questions from friends, family, or the people that we meet at viewings, like exactly how is the market now? So surprisingly, since the start of the circuit breaker, we have done a few transactions, and we have actually done quite a number of them, right, are rentals, which we were honestly very surprised also, because there are no longer any more expats coming into Singapore. Some are even being sent back, but surprisingly the rental take-ups are actually quite healthy. For resale, we have actually just sold a HDB in Choa Chu Kang, which we listed in 1 week. And in that 1 week, we had 10 viewings, 3 offers. It was a very good offer, and our owners took it and we sold the place. Yeah, the buyer for that unit was a first-time buyer. For private property, we have also assisted a few buyers to purchase their private property during this period. And I think the common sense that we've get is that these people who have took action during this period of time, it was more on a needs basis. They still need a home. The first timers who bought the HDB, they needed a place to get, because they were getting married next year and they wanted to start their family. Their jobs are secure. Those buyers have been planning their purchases for quite some time, and they saw this as a good time to enter the market. So of course, not everything was, well, during this period of time. We unfortunately had one client, we were selling his HDB and we had very good response in terms of virtual viewings. But unfortunately for him, he got retrenched. So this was where it got interesting. A lot of people are thinking that, oh, I lose my job. Maybe I have to cut price and quickly offload the unit. But here's the thing, instead of dropping his price, he actually just told us, sorry guys, thank you for your efforts, but I think we need to put this sale on hold. We'll push this whole plan for upgrading until I find another job and things are more stable. So I think this is generally what we feel and what we see in the market now.
Yeah. Right. So if we take a step back to think a little bit deeper, right? Ever since we started in this real estate business, it has been like that, whereby the transactions, majority, I would say a large majority of them are needs based, right? People want to upgrade, people need to get a bigger house. Most of them form like that, right? And speculation has always been very little, right? We're going to touch a little bit more on this moving forward, right, as we go through in our presentation. So enough of storytelling. Let's get on to the actual topic. Let me share. Okay.
So today's topic is about the Singapore property market and how sustainable it is regardless of the impact of COVID-19. Yeah, so it will be a 3-part series. Today is the first part where we talk about the sustainability and the stability. Part 2, we then explore what are the trends of the real estate market moving forward with the impact of COVID-19. And part 3 is what we should look out for. Yeah, so we'll be doing it every 2 weeks. So if you like to join us, do put a note on your calendar and join us 2 weeks later.
But if you're very kanchong, you really want to buy something, then cannot wait so long, right? Drop us a text, right? Then we can have that chat separately, right? Earlier on.
Yeah.
Okay, so where are we today? So year to date, the private property price index is down 2.1%, right? Off the peak in Q4 2019. It's much lower than what people expected. Okay, and a lot of people cannot understand why. Because in the past crisis, if you look at the 08-09 global financial crisis, the price index actually dipped 24.9%. But today, 2 quarters in, it's just 2.1%. Okay, HDB resale price even weirder, right? Came up 0.2%, right? More or less no difference. Like it's been very, very constant. Okay, let me paste the right. So I have pasted in the chat box, right? This MAS Financial Stability Review 2019. Unfortunately, they do that at the end of the year, so we don't actually have that for 2020 as yet. We want to quote them, right? Because don't take our word for it, right? We are agents. So we borrow the authorities' comments, and we look at the facts and the figures, right? So the facts, right? I pulled up some salient points from the section on real estate. If you look at it, the section on real estate is about 10 pages long, not a very long read and not a very chim read. So right, it's simple English, can understand. I'm going and read it. Salient points, right? The average Singapore household LTV, loan to value, is less than 50% at this point in time, meaning most people have already paid half of their house. Okay, the Singapore household as a whole, right, when they combine everything together, is in a net cash position, right? Total cash holdings of all the Singapore households add together is $470 billion, right? You can get this info from data.gov.sg. Total liabilities stands at 324 billion. All right, so in the net cash position. It started to go into this direction ever since the government put in the property cooling measures, right? So this is also something, I jump a little bit to the last point whereby MAS actually state that the property market is going closer towards matching closer to fundamentals due to the property cooling measures. Point 3, a bit chim, a bit of numbers, right? But follow me, okay, for those that can understand. Okay, if you cannot understand, put it below, then maybe I run through this again in the Q&A session. So for those of you that understand what total debt servicing ratio is, okay, basically MAS determines how much the banks can loan to you, and in that formula they have already put in that the banks have to evaluate your loan repayment capability based on 3.5% interest rate, right? And maximum loan tenure of 30 years, and only can use 60% of your combined household income. But in this financial stability review, they actually put the overall borrowing into a stress test, right? So they buffer already and they put it through a stress test some more. In this stress test, what they do, they assume everybody's income drop 10%, right? And interest rate go up another 0.25%, right? And in this scenario, right, the median household mortgage servicing ratio means every month how much of their income they take to pay mortgages is still lesser than 60%. Okay, so as you can see, the government have basically learned from the mistakes of the past, and they have made it very, very hard for people to over leverage themselves we focus mainly on residential property, so I say this for residential property, right? Very, very hard to speculate and to over leverage on residential properties. Okay. So, but they did also highlight some risk, right? They brought up some of the risky groups to pay attention to in the report as well. Basically, the lower income households that have purchased private properties, right? And also the highly leveraged families. Okay, so it's actually pretty obvious, right? Please do your necessary financial planning before embarking on any property purchase, right? Do your necessary research as well. The way we plan it, right, we like to use this term called a reserve fund. So always keep a reserve fund for yourself, which is something that's very fortunate that we see it being activated in today's market a lot. For example, like our owner that got retrenched, right? He has significant reserve funds so that he really, as unfortunate as it is for him to be retrenched, he is not
pressured to sell.
You have the luxury to say, fine, then I just wait, right? I get retrenched, so be it, right? I wait. So always do your financial planning. Do not overstretch yourself, right? As much as the government has already put in safeguards in place, don't overstretch yourself, okay?
Okay, so next is one of our favorite charts. This chart actually maps out what happened and what the government did in terms of cooling measures or easing of cooling measures throughout the property market cycle since 1994 until December 2019. So I think, we can see the few cycles that the big drops that happened, the Asian financial crisis, the dot-com bubble, global financial crisis, where we experienced very huge drops. And if you notice, the red dots are the cooling measures and the green dots are the easing of cooling measures, or the opposite of cooling measures, basically to help stimulate the property market. So you will notice that prior to the crashes in the past, there were only 1 to 2 cooling measures implemented. So when the crash happened and when the recession happened, the government had very little room to play with. They could just, if they have 2, they could just reverse the 2, maybe add in 1 or 2 more and try to hope to bolster the property market. But you can see it doesn't really work all the time. So sometimes you still get that huge drop. But going into COVID-19, you see that ever since the global financial crisis, the property market index have increased a lot, and the government has been putting in numerous cooling measures, and that has helped taper the property market since 2013. So basically, the situation now, the fundamentals of our economy and the property market is very different now in COVID-19 and last time when we didn't have so many safeguards put in place. So I think just a very simple question to think about. Example now, if the government, if we were to experience a drop in price that is unexpected, maybe 20% drop, and then the government say, okay, from tomorrow onwards, no more ABSD for Singaporean citizens buying their second property. That's 12% gone. Or maybe, for example, PRs buying their first property have to have the 5% ABSD. We'll take that away also. What do you think will happen to the property market?
Let us know in the comments. What will happen if the government today say no more ABSD?
They lower. So now 12% is for Singaporean citizens buying their second property. Let's say they lower it back down to just 5%. What do you think will happen? Please share your responses with us.
What do you think? What you guys think will happen to the market?
Whether it'll go up or it'll go down still. Removing the ABSD will not help. Yeah, share with us your thoughts.
Okay, so while we later we come back to this, we will see what people think, right? So on top of all the existing cooling measures in place to basically cushion the market, the government has also put in what is quite unprecedented in the Singapore real estate market, which is the mortgage holiday. So now they are basically saying doesn't matter if you retrenched or you've been affected, you just got to let your bank know, just have to apply to your bank, and the bank will have to grant you a waiver of mortgage repayments all the way up to December.
They don't even need you to show that you have been impacted by COVID-19. It's just an optional thing for you to do.
Right. So we have done that ourselves. We have actually also calculated, and we urge all of you to go and do it if you haven't already do it, because
interest rates are really low at the moment, so it's really worthwhile because they don't charge you additional besides just the little bit of interest.
Yeah, so our repayment, the differential by shifting these 6 months, it's really negligible, right? And I guess all of us could do with a little bit more extra cash flow during this period lah. Okay, right. So to help, right? Because it's a bit hard for us to explain every single cooling measure to you, right? We finish explaining, all of you also fall asleep, right? We will go from 20-something listeners to 0 listeners in no time. So we gave an example. We put up an example to help you guys understand it a little bit better. So I'll let the former auditor run through the numbers with you guys.
Yeah, so I think looking at the left-hand side, in 2008, 2009, let's say we have this client, Mr. Lim, who owns 2 properties, each worth $1 million. So at that point of time, down payments was only 10%. So he only needs to fork out 100,000 for each of his property. The repayment combined for both properties, it being on a 90% loan and interest rates at 3%, would combine to be about $7,400. So stamp duties, at that point of time, there was no ABSD. There was only the standard 3% buyer stamp duty, which works out to be about $30,000. So combined, to be able to purchase 2 individual $1 million properties, Mr. Lim only has to come up about close to $250,000 for his down payment and all the necessary buyer stamp duties. So bringing that forward now to today in 2020, if Mr. Lim wants to similarly buy 2 $1 million properties, what will happen? For the very first property, he will have to put a down payment of 25%, which is $250,000. His repayment on that loan would be about $2,700. If he were to buy the second property, because the first property is still on loan, his down payment for the second property is actually 55%. So that's $550K for a $1 million property. Okay, but repayment is a lot lesser. It's $1,000 and $1,600. So combined, his repayment is lower compared to in 2008, 2009. It is 4,400 versus 7,400. But you can see the stamp duties for the second property is also a lot higher. It is 4% plus 12%, so a total of 16%. So the combined outlay, including the down payment and stamp duties, is actually $970,000. That is almost being able to pay off that first property at the very beginning already. So you can see the affordability, then and now has changed drastically. And let's say COVID-19 happens, people are asking, where are the fire sales in this market? The fact is that people have downpaid their house, 25% or even 55% if it's their second property. You would have to experience a drop that is greater than 25% at least to see people being, forced into that situation of
the margin call. So what's something that has happened a lot last time, right? Which is if you only have 10% equity in the house and the bank owns 90% of the house, if the property prices drop more than 10%, the bank may come to you to ask you to top up the differential, right? Which in market terms, a lot of you may be familiar, is the dreaded term called margin call. So so interesting point to note. Remember I mentioned in the 08-09 crisis, property price index dropped 24.9%. Today, down payment 25%. Coincidence or not? I don't know. You go and think. Okay, right? So how do we condense this whole thing, right? Because we get that question a lot, right? Where are all the fire sales? Where are all the fire sales? Maybe we put this question to you, right, the listeners. Today you own $1 million property, you already pay 500,000, right? You already pay 500,000. Be it you kena retrench or whatever, somebody come to you and say, hey, because of COVID, can I buy your house for 800,000? Would you entertain him, right? You will not, right? So be realistic, right? Be rational about it. And now that you understand the dynamics of it, right? I think the picture is a lot clearer. Okay. So in summary, right? We boil it down to 3 points, okay? To answer the whole question of the sustainability of the Singapore real estate market post COVID-19, within COVID-19, right? The market fundamentals are much stronger today as compared to the previous crises, right? The Singapore government has learned from their lessons of the past. Speculation is very, very little nowadays, okay, especially in the real estate market. The government, the second point is that, 2 quarters into the COVID crisis, the government has not done anything to the cooling measures, right? And the market only dropped 2.1%. Okay, so right, simply to put it, I think, right, if the market continue to go down, they just tweak ABSD. They don't even have to remove it like what Elizabeth said. They adjust it 2%, right? What do you think is going to happen to the market, right? So just think about that, okay? And of course, the last point is it's important to have your own plan, right? Because there's so much that's happening, so much noise today with social media. You get positive news, you get negative news.
Lots of opinions around.
Yes, and lots of opinions around. You get misleading headlines like last week where they say, right, reduce CPF usage. Everybody start to message me, oh my God, what's going to happen? In the end, the article is the guy's own opinion, right? And because of the what's happening in the market, there's a lot of anxiety, a lot of uncertainty going around, very susceptible to being triggered by this kind of small news, right? So we urge all of you, right? Again, I'm going to put the link to the financial stability review, right? Please go and read it, form an opinion for yourself. Those of you that are looking to sell, buy, upgrade, right? Form your own plan, okay? You can really start doing your financial planning, right? Keep a lookout for it, because another thing, it's the property price index is always in hindsight, right? By the time you see that the index start to pick up and then you start to do your planning to take action into the market, it's too late, because I said 24.9% drop. After the drop, the next quarter in 08-09 already got 15%. So yeah, right, that's facts and figures for you guys. So enough numbers for today, right? We try to keep it short as usual, bite size. Today is already quite content heavy. So if any of you have any questions on the slides, right? The next really is already the Q&A session. Please put your questions into the chat, right? We're happy to take any questions. Hi, Rayter, a bit late, but better late than never. Hi, Hansen, long time no see. Hi, Raymond. Hi, Boone.
Yeah, so I think just now when we had the question about what do you think will happen when ABSD is reduced or removed, and we were asking for feedback, Chris mentioned sellers will increase their price. That is actually very insightful, because if you think about it, when all the buyers rush into the market, it then becomes a seller's market. The sellers will then call the shots because they know everybody is very kanchong. Versus now, where everybody is taking a step back, it's actually a very good time to start looking out and planning for your next move.
Yeah, so before we go, right, just a word of advice. So for the sellers, right, don't panic. Right, there's a lot of firepower in the Singapore household, right? They're just waiting for the time to come up to buy, right? Don't panic. For buyers, please be realistic, okay? Like the example you say, the owner that you are lowballing is already the house already 50% sold. Of course, you 50% paid, right? Would they sell you cheap? Okay. The developers, right? They are already on razor-thin margins, right? Do you think they will sell you at a loss? Right, food for thought. We'll talk more about this the next session, right? So if we have no other questions, so thank you all again for joining us. First on our first part of a 3-part series. We'll see you guys 2 weeks from now, right?
Yeah.
So thank you guys.
Next session, we will be talking about the emerging trends and how the market will move forward post-COVID. So hope to see you guys again then.
Bye-bye.
Bye.